The great hall was filled with glowing lights, silver banners hanging from the ceiling, and the low sound of drums echoing through the air. It was the night of the bonding ceremony, a sacred event in the alien city. Every young woman of age had gathered, each carrying her bonding device close to her chest. Families stood around the circle, waiting to see the names that would appear on the screens. Among them stood Liara, a slender alien girl with soft violet skin and bright silver eyes. Her hands trembled as she held the crystal-like device. For years she had dreamed of this moment. She had imagined the crowd cheering as her bond connected her to a strong warrior, or maybe a respected noble. Tonight was supposed to decide her future. The bonding device was no ordinary tool. It had been used for centuries, believed to be flawless. It connected the soul of one to another, revealing a perfect match. The device never lied. The elders said it was guided by the ancient spirits of their world. When it glowed, the truth could not be denied. Liara looked around nervously. She saw other girls smiling with confidence. Some even whispered the names of the partners they hoped for. Her parents stood behind her, proud but watchful. They expected her to bring honor to the family. Liara felt the weight of their hope pressing against her chest. The elders raised their staffs and silence fell across the hall. Tonight, one elder announced, the bonds will be revealed, hearts will be joined, and destinies will be sealed. The drum stopped, and only the sound of breathing filled the air. One by one, the girls stepped forward. A bright light would flash, and the name of their bondmate would appear. Cheers erupted as matches were made. A warrior and a scholar, a healer and a farmer, destiny weaving its invisible thread. When it was Liara's turn, her legs felt weak. She stepped into the circle. The hall seemed larger, darker. Everyone's eyes turned to her. She lifted the bonding device, holding it high. Her heart beat so loudly she thought the whole hall could hear it. The crystal sphere began to glow. A thin line of light spread across its surface. Symbols floated in the air, twisting and spinning until they formed letters. The crowd leaned closer, waiting, and then a gasp swept through the hall. The letters glowed brighter, forming a single word, a name. But it was not an alien name. It was not the name of a noble warrior, or a healer, or anyone from her world. The device pulsed again, stronger this time, as if shouting the truth to everyone present. The letters stood clear for all to see. A human. Liara froze. Her mind went blank. She stared at the word, not believing it around her. The crowd erupted in confusion. Some shouted in anger. Others laughed in disbelief. Families whispered, "Impossible. The device is broken. It cannot be a human." Her father's face turned pale. Her mother covered her mouth in shame. The elders struck their staffs on the floor, trying to calm the hall, but the chaos only grew louder. From the far side of the hall, a tall figure stepped into view. He was not dressed in shining robes or armor like the others. He wore plain clothes, dust clinging to his boots. His dark hair fell into his eyes, and his human face showed only confusion. It was him. The device had chosen him. Liara felt her knees weaken. She wanted to drop the device, to scream that it was wrong, but the glowing letters did not fade. The bonding device never lied. The elder's voice shook as he spoke. The bond is clear. He hesitated, his ancient eyes full of disbelief. Her soul is bound to a human. The hall went silent for one moment, then exploded again with noise. Some called it a curse, others a joke. Warriors shouted that this was an insult to their traditions. Girls whispered behind their hands, mocking Liara. Her hands trembled, her eyes stung with tears. This was supposed to be her proudest night. But now she stood alone in the circle, bound to someone no one respected. The human man took a hesitant step forward. His gaze met hers for the first time. His eyes were calm, almost gentle, but that did not matter. Liara's heart raced with shame and fear. The device pulsed one last time, the glow surrounding them both. And then the light faded, leaving silence in its wake. The hall no longer looked grand to Liara. The banners, the lights, the drums all felt like shadows of a dream broken in a single moment. Her bond was sealed, and she could not believe it. The hall still echoed with shouts long after the device went dark. Liara stood frozen, her hands clutching the crystal as if letting go would erase the truth. But the glowing letters had been clear. A human. The word burned in her mind. The elders tried to calm the crowd. Their voices carried authority. But fear and anger twisted every corner of the hall. Families whispered that the device was broken. Warriors laughed bitterly, calling it a bad omen, and through all of it, the human stood at the edge silent. His name was Kale. No one knew much about him except that he worked in the lower districts. Repairing machines and carrying supplies, he was not a warrior, not a noble, not even respected to most aliens. He was little more than a tolerated outsider. Kale did not move at first. His eyes met Liara's across the circle, and for a moment the noise faded. His expression was not pride, not arrogance, just quiet confusion. He had not expected this any more than she had. Liara's father broke the silence. His voice rang with anger. "This cannot stand," he shouted. "She will not be bound to a human." His words fueled the crowd, more voices rising in agreement. But the elder raised his staff and spoke with a tone that silenced even the angriest. "The bonding device does not lie." His eyes flicked to Kale, then back to Liara. "It has chosen." Liara's heart raced. Her breath came fast. She wanted to scream, to beg them to test again, but the device in her hands pulsed softly. A gentle reminder that the bond had been sealed. Kale finally stepped forward. His boots made a dull sound on the stone floor. Some aliens hissed as he passed. Others turned away in disgust, but he did not react. He only kept his eyes steady, focused on Liara. When he reached the center, the crowd grew tense. Liara took an involuntary step back. Her throat dry, she had seen humans before. But never this close. His features were strange to her eyes, no glowing skin, no delicate markings. His face was plain, his hands rough, and yet there was something unshakable in his presence. The elder turned to him. "Do you accept what has been revealed?" Kyle hesitated. His voice, when it came, was low and steady. "I did not expect this," he said. "But if the device says it, I will not deny it." The crowd erupted again. Shouts of "impossible" and "throw him out" filled the hall. Liara's cheeks burned with shame. She wanted to run, but her feet would not move. Her mother pulled her aside, whispering harshly, "Stay silent. We will find a way to undo this. Do not speak to him. Do not look at him." Her father's eyes were cold. His pride had been wounded deeper than she could bear to see. But Liara could not ignore Kyle's calmness. He stood tall even as dozens of eyes glared at him. His posture was not defiance, it was something else. A quiet strength that made her heart beat strangely. The elders finally ended the ceremony. Declaring the matches complete, the crowd left in groups. Still muttering and shaking their heads, some threw Kale sharp looks as they passed. Others whispered curses under their breath. Liara walked quickly, her parents guiding her. But as they moved through the crowd, she looked back once. Kyle stood alone at the center of the hall, his hands at his sides. His gaze lifted toward the fading lights of the ceremony. He did not look broken. He did not look ashamed. That unsettled her more than anything. Outside the hall, the air was cold. The sky shimmered with the glow of twin moons. Liara pulled her cloak tighter, her heart still heavy, around her. Other girls walked with their new bondmates, laughter and smiles filling the night. She should have been one of them, but instead, she felt the weight of everyone's whispers. Back at home, her parents argued in hushed voices. "We will demand a retest," her father said. "This will not stain our family," her mother added. "Perhaps the council will declare it void. No one will believe a human bond is real." Liara sat silently, staring at the device in her lap. The crystal was dark now, but when she touched it, it warmed faintly as if alive. She hated it for what it had shown. Yet part of her could not forget the way Kale had stood, calm while the whole hall wanted him gone. That night she dreamed of the ceremony again. Only this time, when the letters appeared, she heard a voice whisper, "Trust it." The next morning, the council summoned her. Her heart sank. She entered the chamber with her parents at her side. The elders sat in a circle, their faces grave. One of them spoke. "Tradition demands that every bonded pair undergo the trial of proof. Only then is the bond truly sealed." Her father objected immediately. "You cannot send her with a human, it is dangerous." "It is wrong." But the elder only shook his head. "The device has spoken. To deny it would be to deny the will of our ancestors. She must go, and he must go with her." Liara's blood ran cold. She turned sharply, and there he was again, Kale, standing at the edge of the chamber, his expression unreadable. Her life had shattered in one night, and now she was being forced to walk into the unknown with a human stranger at her side. The next few days after the ceremony were heavier than Liara had ever imagined. The grand hall had emptied. but its echoes followed her everywhere she went. Every corner of the city seemed to know her name. Every whisper carried the same cruel truth. Her bonding device had chosen a human. When she walked through the market streets, she felt eyes stabbing her back. Alien women she once called friends turned away. Some pretended not to see her. Others leaned close to each other, their voices sharp with gossip. "That's her," they murmured. "The one tied to the outsider. Children, too young to understand cruelty," repeated the words they had overheard. "Humans, mate," they giggled, pointing. Liara kept her head down. But each word cut deeper. At home, things were worse. Her father refused to speak to her except in anger. His proud shoulders were always stiff, his voice cold. "Do not bring shame to this family again," he said whenever she tried to explain. Her mother wept silently at night, believing her daughter's future had been destroyed. Liara wanted to shout that none of it was her choice. She wanted to throw the device away. But every time she held it, it pulsed softly, reminding her that the bond was real and unbreakable. Kale, meanwhile, carried on with his work. He lived in the outer quarters, where humans and other outsiders were given space. It was a place Liara's kind rarely visited. Yet she heard stories. He walked the streets calmly. As if nothing had changed, some mocked him, throwing harsh words in his path. Others tried to shove him aside, but he never raised his voice, never struck back. To the people, his silence was weakness. To Liara, it was unsettling. On the fourth day, she dared to step outside the city gates, hoping the open fields would quiet her mind. But even there, she found no peace. A group of young warriors trained near the edge. When they saw her, they smirked. "Look, the human's bondmate," one shouted, swinging his practice spear. "Does he carry you like a pet, or do you carry him?" Laughter followed. Liara's cheeks burned. She wanted to scream at them, but the words stuck in her throat. She turned and ran, the sound of their mocking still chasing her ears. That night, as she sat in her room, her younger brother crept in quietly. His voice was small. "Sister, is it true? Did the device really choose him?" She nodded weakly. Her brother frowned. "But he's not one of us, I know," Liara whispered, pressing the device against her chest. Her voice cracked. "I wish I could change it, but I can't." Her brother did not answer. He only left, closing the door softly behind him. The council did not wait long. They summoned her again, this time. Kale was already there when she arrived. His clothes were still plain, his posture steady. He looked so out of place among the tall, elegant aliens. Yet he did not flinch when their glares landed on him. One elder spoke. "The trial of proof begins tomorrow. You both must journey together beyond the safe walls into the forest of shadows. Only those truly bonded will survive if the bond is false. The spirits will reveal it." Liara's heart dropped. She had heard stories of the forest. The shadows held beasts that could tear through stone. The ground itself was said to move. Swallowed travelers had never returned. Her father slammed his hand against the council table. "You would send my daughter to her death alongside a human?" The elder's eyes did not waver. "Tradition demands it. If the bond is real, they will endure. If it is false, the forest will claim them both." Liara's stomach twisted. She looked at Kale, expecting him to protest, to refuse, but he only nodded slowly. "If this is the way, then I will go." She could not believe him. Was he foolish or was he brave? When they left the chamber, whispers filled the corridor. Guards, servants, and citizens all talking. She will not survive. The human will drag her down. A curse on her family forever. Liara clenched her fists. Shame burned hotter than fire. She wanted to run far from Kale, far from the city, but the device pulsed warmly in her hand, as if reminding her that no matter where she went, the bond would follow. That night she could not sleep. She walked to the balcony and stared at the twin moons. Their light bathed the city in silver. For the first time, she wondered what Kale was thinking. Did he hate this bond as much as she did, or did he accept it in silence? Her heart whispered questions she could not silence. Why had the device chosen him? Why had the spirits tied her fate to a human stranger? Behind her, the door creaked. She turned and saw her father standing there. His voice was low, heavy with disappointment. "If you return with him tomorrow, you will not be welcomed in this house again." The words crushed her. She wanted to cry, to beg him to take them back. But his eyes were sharp, his face unyielding. He left her there in silence, and the cold night air pressed against her skin. Liara looked at the glowing device one last time before she forced herself to lie down. Tomorrow she would walk into the forest with Kyle. Tomorrow she would face the trial, and tomorrow, the whispers of rejection would either end or destroy her forever. The morning of the trial came far too quickly. The city still slept, but Liara could hear distant bells echoing through the streets. Each sound reminded her of the fate waiting beyond the gates. She dressed slowly, her hands trembling as she tied her cloak. The bonding device glowed faintly at her chest, warm against her skin as if alive. Her parents stood in the main hall. Her mother's eyes were red from crying, her father's expression cold and sharp. He did not wish her farewell, he only said, "Do not come back in shame." The words pierced her deeper than any blade. When Liara stepped outside, the streets were not empty. Curious eyes followed her. Whispers spread like smoke. Some mocked, others pitied, but none offered kindness. It was as if she already carried the mark of failure. At the city gates, Cale was waiting. He looked the same as ever, plain clothes, dust on his boots, calm eyes. He carried only a small pack on his back. Unlike the alien warriors who often marched proudly into trials, he looked unprepared yet strangely steady. Liara's heart twisted. "You could still walk away," she muttered. Not meeting his eyes, Cale shook his head. The device chose. "I won't run from it." His simple words irritated her. Did he not understand the danger? Did he not fear the forest that had swallowed trained soldiers before? But his calm tone also unsettled her. It was not arrogance, not ignorance, it was resolve. The elders arrived, their robes brushing against the stone ground. One raised his staff and spoke loudly for all to hear. By tradition, the bonded must prove their connection in the trial. They will enter the forest of shadows and survive until the 7th sunrise. Only then will the bond be sealed. Gasps spread through the crowd gathered at the gates. 7 days in the forest was a death sentence for many, but tradition was law. The gates creaked open. The vast wilderness stretched out beyond, a wall of dark trees whispering under the twin moons. The air itself felt heavier, colder. Liara's chest tightened as she stepped forward. Cale followed silently beside her. The gates closed behind them, sealing the city away for the first time. Liara was alone with the human. They walked in silence for hours. The forest loomed tall, vines curling like snakes, strange cries echoing from unseen creatures. The ground was uneven, roots jutting out like claws. Liara stumbled more than once, each time Cale slowed his pace so she could catch up. But he never offered his hand. Finally she snapped. "Why don't you say anything? Do you enjoy watching me suffer?" Cale turned his head, his calm gaze meeting hers. "You don't want me here. Why should I force my words on you?" Her breath caught. His honesty was like a knife. But she had no answer. She turned away, angry at herself for even speaking. As night fell, they stopped near a clearing. Liara tried to spark a fire with the tools her people had given her, but the damp wood refused to burn. Frustration built until she wanted to scream. Cale crouched beside her, picking up 2 stones. With a few practiced strikes, sparks leapt into the dry grass he had gathered. Within moments, a small flame grew. Steady and warm, Liara stared, speechless. She had expected him to fail, but he had done it easily. "You should rest," Kyle said quietly. His voice was not commanding, only gentle. "I'll keep watch." Liara lay down reluctantly, staring at the stars peeking through the branches. The crackle of the fire and Cale's steady presence beside it kept her awake. She did not want to admit it, but she felt safer than before. The second day was harder, the deeper they went. The darker the forest grew, strange creatures followed them in the shadows. Glowing eyes watching. At one point, a beast burst from the underbrush. A massive creature with teeth like daggers. Liara froze in terror. Cale reacted instantly. He grabbed a broken branch and swung with all his strength. The beast hissed, retreating into the shadows. Liara's heart pounded. She had thought he would die instantly. But he stood firm, his chest heaving, his hands shook, but he did not back down until the forest grew silent again. Liara's legs gave way. She sank to the ground. "You could have died," she whispered. Kyle wiped the sweat from his brow. "So could you," he said simply. "That's why I didn't let it touch you." Her throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to tell him she never asked for his help. But the words died in her mouth instead. She found herself staring at him, seeing not weakness but courage as the days stretched on. They were forced to rely on each other. Cale built shelters when the rain fell. He found roots and berries safe to eat. When Liara grew weak, he carried her pack without complaint. He never asked for thanks, never demanded respect. He simply did what needed to be done. Liara hated the way her heart softened. She hated that every moment proved the device might not have been wrong. On the sixth night, as they sat by another small fire, Liara finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, almost fragile. "Why do you not hate me? My people mock you. I have done nothing but push you away, yet you help me." Kale looked into the fire. His eyes glowed with its light. "Because the bond is not your fault. It isn't mine either. But if we're tied together, I'd rather spend that time protecting than fighting." Liara's breath caught. His words pressed against the wall around her heart, cracks beginning to form. She lay awake that night, listening to the forest, watching Kale's figure outlined by the fire as he kept watch. For the first time since the ceremony, Liara felt something she could not name. But it scared her more than the forest itself. The forest grew darker with every step. By the fifth day, Liara and Kale were deep within its heart, where even sunlight struggled to pass through the thick canopy. Strange cries echoed above them, rustling in the branches. Sometimes, Liara swore she saw glowing eyes watching, disappearing the moment she turned her head. She had never felt so far from her world. So far from safety, Kale moved ahead, steady as always. His rough hands pushed vines aside. His boots crushed the wet ground with confidence. Liara followed, her mind torn. She wanted to keep hating him, to hold on to her shame. But every step showed her another reason to doubt that hate. By midday, they reached a river. Its water was dark and fast, foaming around jagged rocks. The air smelled of moss and wet stone. Liara's legs trembled. We cannot cross this," she said. Kale crouched, studying the current. "There's a way," he said, pointing to fallen logs forming a narrow bridge. It looked fragile, but it was their only option. Liara shook her head, fear tightening her chest. "If I fall, you won't," Kale interrupted softly. His calm voice was steady. "I'll go first. Watch me." He stepped onto the log bridge, balancing carefully as the river roared beneath. The log dipped and shifted, but his movements were steady. In moments, he was on the other side. He turned, raising a hand. "Your turn." Liara's stomach nodded. She took a step, then another, her arms spread wide. Her heart pounded with every sway of the log. The sound of rushing water filled her ears. Halfway across, a shadow moved beneath the water. Liara froze. "Something's there," she whispered. Before Kale could answer, the water exploded upward. A massive beast surged out, a creature with scales as black as night, teeth like swords and eyes glowing yellow. Its body coiled like a serpent, crashing against the log. Liara screamed as the log shuddered beneath her feet. She lost balance, falling sideways. Her hand flailed for grip. Her fingers caught the edge of the slippery wood. Dangling over the rushing water, the beast opened its jaws, snapping dangerously close. "Liara." Kale's voice cut through the roar. He sprinted across the bank and onto the log without hesitation. The log swayed violently under both their weight, but he did not slow. His hands grabbed hers just as her grip slipped. The beast lunged again. Its jaws slammed shut where she had been a second before. Kale pulled her upward with all his strength, dragging her onto the log. She gasped, clinging to him as the beast thrashed in the water. The log cracked under the force, breaking apart in a single motion. Kale lifted her into his arms and leapt toward the far bank. They hit the ground hard, rolling across wet stones. The river swallowed the broken logs behind them, the beast retreating with an angry hiss. For a moment, all Liara could hear was her own heartbeat. Pounding like a drum, she realized she was still clinging to Kale, her arms wrapped tightly around him, her face pressed against his chest. His heart was racing too, but his breathing was steady. He slowly set her down, his eyes searching hers. "Are you hurt?" Liara shook her head, still gasping. "No, but you saved me." Kale nodded, wiping mud from his arms. "Of course I did." She stared at him, words trapped in her throat. He had risked everything. Not for glory, not for honor, but simply because it was her. She felt something stir inside her chest, something she did not want to admit. As they continued their journey, Liara walked closer to him than before. Her mind replayed the moment on the log again and again. His hand pulling hers, his strength lifting her, the fire in his eyes when he shouted her name. No alien warrior had ever looked at her like that. Not with anger, not with pride, but with pure determination to keep her alive. That night, they rested beneath the twisted roots of an ancient tree. Kale built another fire, his hands moving with practiced ease. Liara sat across from him, the bonding device warm against her skin. Finally she spoke, her voice quiet. Why? You could have let me fall, the beast would have taken me and no one would have blamed you. Why risk yourself for me? Cale looked up from the fire, his eyes reflected the flames. Calm and steady. Because we're bonded, whether you believe it or not. Your life matters to me. Liara's breath caught. She turned away quickly, not wanting him to see her eyes. Her heart thudded painfully. The forest was silent around them, but inside her a storm raged. She had spent days hating him, rejecting the bond. But tonight she could no longer deny what she had felt when he saved her. Trust, safety, and something far more dangerous. As the firelight flickered, Liara curled into her cloak, pretending to sleep. But her thoughts would not rest. For the first time, she wondered if the device had been right all along. Cale kept watch through the night, his silhouette steady against the glowing embers, and Liara, half asleep, felt her heart betray her with every quiet beat. By the 6th morning, the forest felt less like a prison and more like a living creature. Its branches stretched like arms, its roots twisted like traps, and the air itself seemed to whisper. Liara walked close to Cale now, no longer keeping distance. She hated to admit it, but his presence made the darkness less heavy. The memory of the river attack lingered in her mind. Every time she looked at her hands, she remembered his grip pulling her to safety. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his calm face in the firelight. It unsettled her, but it also warmed something inside her she had thought lost. They stopped near a pool of clear water to rest. Liara knelt to drink, her reflection rippling on the surface. She looked tired, her silver eyes dim, her violet skin marked with scratches from thorns. For the first time, she did not feel beautiful. Cale crouched beside her, cupping water in his hands. He drank quietly, then glanced at her. You should eat something, he said softly, offering a piece of root he had dug up earlier. Liara frowned. How do you always know what's safe? Cale shrugged. I've lived in places like this before. Humans survive by learning fast or not at all. His words carried no pride. Only fact. Liara took the root, chewing slowly. The taste was bitter but filling. She watched him as he worked with quiet patience, tying sticks together, shaping traps for small animals. His hands were rough but precise, his face calm but focused. Finally, her curiosity broke through her silence. Why do you live in our city? Most humans stay far away. Cale's hands paused. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he set the trap aside and sat back. His gaze turned upward, to the faint light breaking through the trees. Because I had nowhere else to go. Liara tilted her head. Waiting, he continued, his voice low. My home was destroyed years ago. War tore it apart. I lost everything. My people scattered. Some went to other colonies, some never made it. I wandered until I reached your city. They let me stay because I could fix machines. That's all I've been since then, a worker. Nothing more. Liara's chest tightened. She had imagined him as a simple outsider. She had never thought of the story behind his quiet eyes. She whispered, You lost your family? Cale nodded slowly. All of them. His eyes flickered with something heavy, but he did not let it break him. So I kept moving forward. One step at a time. Liara lowered her gaze. For the first time, she felt ashamed of her own complaints. She had hated the bond, cursed it, but she still had parents, a home, even if they rejected her now. Cale had nothing, and yet he stood stronger than anyone she knew. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the sound of the forest. Liara finally spoke, her voice fragile. I thought you were weak. I thought the device made a mistake. But every day you prove me wrong. Cale looked at her, his eyes steady. I don't care about what they think, he said quietly. All I care about is keeping you alive. Her breath caught. Her heart hammered. She wanted to look away, but his gaze held her warm and unshakable. That night, they built a small fire under a hollow tree. The flames flickered against the bark, shadows dancing around them. Liara sat close, hugging her knees. She felt the bonding device pulse softly, like it was alive with her heartbeat. After a long silence, she spoke again. Do you ever wish the device had chosen differently? That you didn't have to carry me through this? Cale turned toward her, his face serious. No. Liara blinked, startled. No? He shook his head. I never asked for this, but now that it's here, I don't regret it. I'd rather walk into danger with you than live safely alone. Her throat tightened. Her hands gripped her cloak. She had expected resentment, bitterness, even anger. but his words cut through her doubts like light through shadow. Liara's eyes burned, she whispered before she could stop herself. I've always felt alone, even in a crowd, even with my family. I thought a bond would make me feel seen. But when it chose you, I felt cursed. Her voice cracked. Now I don't know what to feel. Cale did not speak right away. He only moved closer, not touching, but near enough that she could feel his warmth. His voice was steady, calm as always. Then let the feeling grow. Don't fight it, don't force it, just let it be. Her silver eyes met his, and for a moment the forest disappeared. The whispers of rejection vanished, and the only truth that existed was the bond between them. Liara lay down that night with her heart racing, not from fear, but from something far more dangerous. She did not sleep easily, but she no longer dreaded the next sunrise, because for the first time she wanted to see where this bond might lead. The seventh sunrise broke through the forest, golden light spilling between the twisted branches. Liara and Cale had survived 6 days and nights together. Each day had tested them with hunger, danger, and exhaustion. Yet they still walked side by side. But the trial was not finished. The council had said only those truly bonded would last until the seventh sunrise. Liara wondered what the forest still held for them. Her bonding device glowed faintly against her chest, pulsing with her heartbeat. They followed a narrow path leading toward a rocky hill. From its peak, Liara could see the faint outline of the city walls far in the distance. Hope rose in her chest. Home was close. Their suffering was almost over. Then the ground shook. A deep roar thundered across the forest. Birds scattered from the trees, and the earth split open near the hill. From the shadowed pit, a beast climbed out, larger than anything they had faced before. Its body was covered in thick black scales, its claws sharp enough to carve stone. Its eyes glowed red, and its breath burned the air like fire. Liara froze, terror rooting her to the ground. No, we can't fight that, she whispered. Cale stepped forward, his body tense but steady. We don't have a choice. The beast roared again. Charging toward them, the ground shook with every step. Liara stumbled back, panic flooding her. We'll die, she cried. Cale glanced at her, his eyes firm. Not if we trust each other. Before she could argue, the beast lunged. Cale shoved her aside, its claws ripping into the earth where she had stood. Dust and broken roots filled the air. Cale grabbed a fallen spear-like branch, holding it like a weapon. The beast swung its massive tail, smashing into the ground. Cale barely dodged. He shouted, Liara! The device, does it react to danger? Liara looked down. The bonding device was glowing brighter than ever, pulsing in rhythm with her racing heart. She gasped, It's reacting to us. Then use it, Kyle yelled, holding the beast back as best he could. His branch snapped in half under the creature's weight. Liara clutched the device. Closing her eyes, she thought of the bond, of Cale pulling her from the river, of his steady hands building fires, of his quiet voice sharing his pain. She thought of how he never left her side, never gave up, never let her fall. The device blazed, a beam of light shooting outward. Wrapping around both her and Cale, the glow spread, forming a shield as the beast struck again. Its claws hit the light, but sparks flew, the shield held. Cale stared in awe. It's protecting us. Liara's eyes filled with tears. Because I finally believe it, the bond is real, the beast roared, striking again and again, but the shield grew stronger. Every time Liara's heart raced with fear, Cale's hand reached for hers, steadying it. Their bond strengthened. The light brightened. Together, Cale said, his voice low but powerful. We face it together. Liara squeezed his hand. For the first time, not with shame, but with trust. Together, she echoed. The device pulsed one final time, releasing a shockwave of light. The beast shrieked as the force hurled it backward into the pit from where it came. The ground rumbled, then sealed shut. Trapping the monster beneath, silence fell over the forest. Liara collapsed to her knees, gasping. Cale dropped beside her. His chest heaving, they stared at each other. And for the first time since the ceremony, Liara did not see a stranger. She saw her bondmate. Tears blurred her vision. I fought it so long I was afraid, ashamed, but you never turned away. You saved me again and again, and now. I know the device wasn't wrong. Cale's rough hand gently brushed the tears from her cheek. His voice was soft. Then you accept it? Liara nodded, a trembling smile breaking through. I accept you. The bonding device glowed warmly, not with force this time, but with peace. Its light faded into their joined hands, leaving only the bond between them. When they returned to the city, the gates opened slowly. The crowd gathered, silent in disbelief. They had expected failure. They had expected only one to return. But Liara and Kale walked through side by side, their hands clasped. Their bond undeniable. The elders watched, their stern faces betraying shock. Families whispered, some in outrage, others in awe. Warriors who had mocked her fell silent. Children stared wide-eyed. Liara lifted her head high. For the first time, she felt no shame. Her voice carried across the square. The bond is real, it chose him. And I choose him too. Gasps rippled through the crowd. No alien had ever spoken such words. Yet Liara's heart no longer cared for their judgment. Her truth was clear. Kale stood beside her, silent but unshaken, his presence stronger than any warrior, his quiet strength more powerful than their disbelief. In that moment, the bond was not only between two souls, it was a spark that challenged the entire society. And as Liara looked at him, her heart finally at peace, she knew their story was only beginning.